All right, good evening, folks. Today it's the day after Easter, so we've already been through in the order of events. Jesus was captured, beat, literally tortured. He was whipped, forced to carry part of his own crucifixion, his own terrible route to death by himself. He was humiliated because he was stripped naked to do it. Crowds of people watching him. He fulfilled prophecy in the way he died without his bones having to be broke and being speared in the side. He was put in a grave that he did not own. He fulfilled prophecy again. And then on the third day, Jesus rose from the grave again. He did the impossible and the improbable. Now, on the second day, the disciples, they were fearful. They were afraid. It even says that in the Gospels that they were afraid. Their whole worldview of what was to come was shattered. See, when Jesus said he's going to rebuild the kingdom, they were thinking a literal kingdom. Like there's a king going to sit on the throne. They were no longer going to be under Rome's rule. They were going to be under their own rule by a descendant of King David, which Jesus the Messiah was and is. So now that's gone, that's shattered. They don't know what to do, right? So they're hiding out. They're fearful. Nothing panned out the way they thought it was. So then the third day comes. Jesus rose, right? He leaves the grave. He's out walking around. Historians tell us that 500 people witnessed him doing it. And it also tells us that people that previously dead, they were out of the grave and people saw them walking around Jerusalem also. So now they know this, they're all excited and they go out to find him, right? So he does the impossible and the improbable again by revealing himself to them in different ways. He comes through a wall. He shows up on the side of a lake, right? And he gives them a command. And he tells them, assemble together, all of you, in the upper room, and you pray until the Helper comes. The Helper is the Holy Spirit, right? So we're coming up on Pentecost. And that is what happened after all the disciples were together in the upper room. And there are others there also, but they all prayed in unison, all in one accord, all for one specific thing to happen. And it happened. Guys, Resurrection Sunday, all the prayers and the fasting that went on in the upper room in the coming days, and the day of Pentecost, it was a literal world changer. Now just imagine this. Everybody's used to having to sacrifice animals to pay for their sin, right? To get right with the Lord. And now they don't have to do it. They don't have to bring a goat into the house, that scapegoat. They don't have to bring it in. They don't have to have the priest pray over it, lay hands on it. And they don't have to send the most fit man out in the wilderness with the goat and hope that the goat didn't come home. But a goat's a goat, and they're stubborn. They're going to do their thing. So they're going to bring that. They're going to bring the symbolism of that sin back to the house, and that family's going to be cursed. Therefore, more sacrifices, right? That's all gone. Think about this. Their whole worldview is now, it's been changed. Everything they thought of in the past has now been changed. They no longer have to draw straws, see who gets the shortest straw. Now they rely on the Holy Spirit, right? They do the things that Jesus used to do. Now we look back on hindsight and we say, well, that's silly that they didn't know he was going to rise from the dead. He told them he was going to do it, right? What was wrong with them? Hard-headed, got rocks upstairs. We don't get it. Yeah, they did walk with Jesus, and their only frame of reference is what he told them, right? Think of how long it had been since anything happened. The Bible, look, there was 400 years of silence between the Old Testament and the birth of Jesus. Nothing happened. We don't have recorded miracles. We don't have recorded sightings of angels of the Lord. There was silence, no prophecy. Prior to that, we have records of miracles, of things, the impossible. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We got the general that came to see the prophet to get healed of leprosy. There's a list of them. Then Jesus comes on the scene after 400 years of silence, and he changes it all. He does miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. And then he dies. So, of course, the disciples are like, we don't understand what happened. We're completely in the dark. We do the same thing. We have a frame of reference. We can look back to the Old Testament, some people call it the Torah, and we can look at the New Testament. And we can see all these miracles. And then since the death, resurrection, ascension of Jesus the Christ, the Messiah, We have documentation of miracles over a couple thousand years since then, even to current day. There's some that I've seen that I've been a part of, I could tell you about. Other people could tell you much more. It's not uncommon, but yet, when things aren't going good for us, when it looks like we're in a dark place, and everything we thought has been derailed or not happening, or it doesn't mean that it's not going to. See, we can feel that we have, or believe that we have a word from the Lord of something that's going to happen. Maybe different people spoke something over us, and you know in your spirit that it's right. Maybe you believe through prayer that there's a certain event supposed to happen, or maybe not an event, but you know that there's something supposed to transpire, and it hasn't yet. It doesn't mean it won't. It doesn't mean it hasn't. Maybe it has, but it didn't look like what you thought it would look like. Imagine this with the disciples, right? Jesus talked about bringing the kingdom here on earth and reestablishing his kingdom. So they thought it was going to be a literal kingdom with a throne, but it wasn't. It was a spiritual kingdom where he gave you and me complete authority. He gave us the keys to hell. Right? When it says that he gave us that not even the gates of hell would withstand it, gates aren't an offensive tool, they're a defensive tool to keep the enemy out. Right? We've got that authority. But it didn't look like it then. But we're very fortunate that they realized what they're seeing when he came back. So how many times has that happened with you? All right? You've prayed for something. You believe you've got a word, but it doesn't come to pass when you think it should. And maybe you try to make it come to pass like under your own authority, under your own power, like Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar, and it doesn't work. And you're like, well, maybe I didn't hear right, or maybe I was meant to fail. No. Maybe you did it on your timing, not his timing. See, it's a crucial difference. We got to understand the difference in timing. So as we move forward, we got a lot of prophecies about what's going to happen with this coronavirus. And we can interpret things however we want to interpret it. But no man on earth can be 100% sure of how this is going to play out and what's going to happen in the coming days. For many, it's still dark. The media has scared you into a very fearful existence, which if you're a believer, you should not fear. Look it up. Right? Go to the Bible, look it up. You shouldn't fear. You shouldn't be fearful. You got nothing to worry about. Yahweh has got control of everything. So think about this. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't happen. And just because you think it hasn't happened doesn't mean it hasn't already happened, but you refuse to see it because it didn't play out how you perceive it's going to play out. So I want to challenge you guys over the next several weeks and months to walk as the disciples walked after the day of Pentecost. Use this time to prepare, to pray in unison, to pray in one accord. And be prepared, because you don't know what's coming. And it may not look like you think it's going to look. It may not look like how you think it ought to look. But it will look how Yahweh believes it and has already determined it will look. But it's up to us to make sure that there's glory. That there's glory in it. That people around us that are not believers understand it. So I urge you, pray. I urge you to fast. I urge you to study the Word. I urge you to pray with other believers on one accord. You can either do it individually, you can set it up on text messages, you can set it up in Zoom and Snapchat, however you want to do it. But pray and be prepared. Because I'm telling you, when things change and when things open up and people are allowed to get back to church and worship freely again without the government mandate, there's going to be a lot of people in America that are going to be looking for answers and going to be looking for light. And that is you, and that is me. With that, be safe and continue to walk in the blessings and righteousness of the Lord.